What's going on, you guys? Stockton here from Better Than Data, and today I want to cover an especially important topic, especially in today's landscape where there's so many different landing page builders, there's so many different CMSs and checkouts, and that is why your tech stack matters. And we're going to cover some exact examples of bad tech stacks, and at the end we'll go over kind of an ideal tech stack situation. For this, of course, if you are looking to enhance your measurement journey, if you want to learn more about the business of measurement and improve your skills on that front, then head on over to betterthandata.com/YouTube, where you can take this free quiz and kind of find out where you are along that journey and then get our tips and recommendations just for you on how to take it to the next level. Of course, Better Than Data is there to help teach and instruct and guide you if you are looking to go down that measurement journey. So head on over to betterthandata.com/YouTube. All right, otherwise, let's jump in to look at why tech stack is so important these days and a few examples that we see quite often, more and more happening with the advent of all of these different checkouts and page builders and all of those sort of things. So the first one is that we're seeing way too much is people creating websites like this where they're going from one page to another, but those pages are on completely different domains. So for example, here we might have marketingsite.com, which they're using as kind of a front end for their offers. And then after they go from marketingsite.com, the next step is to actually go to the store. So they go from marketingsite.com through to store.com. Now, this technically is possible to track, but what it does is it introduces complexity. It makes it so you have to be super aware of what is happening, and other vendors, like for example, when we come in or when other people come in, they may not understand all of the nuances that need to take place to properly track between marketingsite.com and store.com. And also, some tools just aren't really properly equipped to handle this type of cross-domain measurement. So it's possible to solve in things like Google Analytics, where you can set up a linker parameter that will persist from going from marketingsite.com to store.com, but some tools don't have that capability yet. Some ad platforms just straight up can't track when you go from marketingsite.com to store.com. So while it is possible in something like Google Analytics, it does introduce complexity, and some tools just straight up can't do it yet because they don't have some sort of linker that you can track the same user going from one site to the other. The other one that's pretty common is when you have, we're going in red now, when you have a form or some sort of pop-up, and the pop-up is what then redirects you to the next site. So let's say this is the same domain, so we got marketingsite.com going to store.com. Well, if the redirect happens because of a form submission, so because I actually submitted the form like that pops up on marketingsite.com, then a lot of times the linker parameter won't even work in this case either. So if the redirect happens because of a form, it's even more complex and oftentimes breaks even more. So something to try and avoid. And what's the solution to this? The best solution to this is actually to just have everything on landing pages. So it would be like marketing.store.com. This is a much better solution in terms of tracking, and then you don't have to worry about any of this cross-domain measurement because it's all technically the same domain. It's all store.com. So if we're looking at cookies and how user identification works for most platforms, it's by storing a cookie that is accessible on store.com and any of its subdomains automatically. So whether it's marketing.store.com or checkout.store.com, it doesn't matter. Then you don't have to worry about going from one site to another. You don't have to worry about if there's a form and the form is doing a redirect to another site. It just kind of removes all of that complexity. So another kind of tip here is think about the cookies. Think about what is the top level domain and is that user ID accessible on all of my pages that I am on. Okay, the next one we're seeing as far as bad tech stacks is tools that don't really play nice with Google Tag Manager, and they don't really make data available for Google Tag Manager. Now, Google Tag Manager uses the data layer, and some tools just don't make any of the, for example, purchase information available dynamically on something like a thank you page. So if we look at this type of example here, where we go from an order page to an upsell page, they could go to a downsell, to another upsell, to another, this should be downsell. And then finally on the thank you page is where we want to trigger our conversion. The biggest offender I'm thinking of right now at this moment is actually ClickFunnels. So this would be a typical ClickFunnels website where you have your order page, then you go through all of the different funnel steps, and then on the thank you page, you want to be able to trigger your purchase event for all of the products that were purchased during the funnel. But how? They actually don't make that very easy at all. In order to grab either the user details or the order details, and it requires some major hacks in order to get this to work. And sometimes it just straight up doesn't work. And a lot of times what I've seen people do is they just hard code the value in because it's so hard to get dynamically. Not only is there no like data layer purchase event, but then just trying to get the data, you're trying to maybe do some scraping of the page, you're trying to grab the fields dynamically from the website itself, and that's just not the proper way to go. And in this case, ClickFunnels is very difficult to track properly, because you do want to be able to use Google Tag Manager. You want that nice data layer event. For example, here's a WooCommerce site where I just made a purchase, and in the data layer right here, there's a nice purchase event for me. And on that purchase event, there's this is a GA4 data layer. So there's the detail, all the details that I want in order to send my data to, in this case, GA4. But because it's in the data layer and because it's in the hands of Google Tag Manager, now I can also send all of that data to wherever else I want. And if we look at tags fired on this event, I can use this same data. It's reusable now. I can use it for, here's my Google Analytics 4 tag, but I can also use it for my Facebook tags and my Google Ads conversion tags and any of the other platforms that I want to send to, because I now have this one event. And so if your tech stack, ClickFunnels, I'm looking at you, doesn't have this type of capability where you can dynamically get the values from that were purchased, that you can dynamically get customer user data, then it's going to introduce complexity into the tech stack. So that is something to look out for. That we are seeing quite often is just these tools often think of measurement as an afterthought instead of being, a core principle to be a data-driven business. Okay. The other thing we're seeing is that people are just making their tech stacks more complicated than necessary. For example, they will have one tool that's their landing page tool, then they're going to use a separate third-party tool that's the form tool, and then they're going to go through to this webinar page, right? So they're going to use EverWebinar, which is also notoriously hard to track. So you've got this third-party tool here. So we've got, maybe ClickFunnels. Then we've got EverWebinar. Right? And then it's going to like something like Teachable, right? So you've got this crazy convoluted tech stack where you're going from 3 different tools, probably on 3 different domains. You've got some crazy redirects happening from the form, which is hosted on EverWebinar's domain, to EverWebinar, and then on to another domain, which is on Teachable. And it's just overly complex. And you're trying to figure out, why aren't things working as they should be? Well, it's probably because your tech stack is way too complicated and doesn't work for measurement. I'm not frustrated at this at all, as you can tell. So while there are some major workarounds and like things probably, you could work them out, that gets expensive, right? To come up with all of these custom solutions when you could have just simplified your tech stack and made it work a little bit better. So what does kind of an ideal tech stack look like? Well, one, your websites. Let's list them out here. Your website /cart /checkout /landing page, whatever that is, should be GTM friendly. and that includes making data available for GTM. Now this one, making the data available in the data layer, most platforms don't have that type of native integration, but most platforms should have some dynamic variables that you can kind of build your own custom data layer for. So think of something like Thrivecart or Samcart or Shopify. Like, they don't provide a native data layer, but they have the variables ready that you can maybe work with a developer or find someone that's already done it. And once you have that data layer implemented once, it's usually just copy and paste, right? Someone else already did the work. You just copy and paste it into the right field in the tool, and boom, you have your data layer, which isn't really possible with something like ClickFunnels, unfortunately. So your website card should be GTM friendly. That means having a data layer, but also being able to just add GTM. So GTM should be across all of the different pages. The next ideal tech stack would be that your landing pages and checkout are on the same top level domain. And that's what we talked about at the very top here. So this works. Let's go up. So this is fine where you have it on a subdomain, right? Because it's still the same top level domain, store.com. You're just using subdomains. So marketing.store.com, checkout, pages, whatever it is, secure. Those are all going to work as far as measurement goes because they're on the same top level domain. And cookies are available across all of those different pages. So that is the other thing to look out for. Something to keep in mind is your forms should not redirect across domains. Okay, this one is really important, super hard to debug, super hard to fix. In something like this, where you have a ClickFunnels page with an EverWebinar form embedded, and you're trying to measure going from the ClickFunnels to the EverWebinar over to your Teachable, you're try not to have your form redirect to another domain. Ideally, this redirect would actually come back to the same site that the ClickFunnels page is on, or to another top level domain. But going form redirects to completely new domains are challenging. And then finally, the checkout, checkout should make order details and user details available dynamically. Probably spelled that wrong. That's fine. And this way, when you are evaluating a tech stack, is everything working on a same domain? Can I use subdomains? Are we doing any redirects? Are there forms with redirects? Is the user data available? That sort of thing. We would see. We would have a few less gray hairs. Let's say that. And that way, your site will actually be measure friendly, and you can get kind of the results you want. Because if you're trying to track Facebook ads and you're not following some of these best practices, then your results at the end will actually not be as good as it could be. And we saw this especially when we were working with a client to run split testing, and they had this type of setup where they were going from some crazy third-party domain to their main domain, and because there was actually a form redirect, they couldn't measure the effectiveness of the split test on that landing page, because the checkout page, when they finally made the purchase, just didn't have any of the acquisition details or the click IDs or the experiment ID or anything to know that that purchase came from this site, because there was all these different shenanigans, form redirects, different websites happening in the middle that broke the measurement and tracking. So that's it. That is some tips on how to make your site more measure friendly and why your tech stack matters more than ever.